Good afternoon and welcome to our Facebook Live today. This is Thursday the 18th, the 19th of November. Oh dear, this is Thursday the 19th of November. My name's Jenny McCormac and I'm from Jemini Crafts. And I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in the UK. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're joining me live, do say hi so that I know that you're here. It's always lovely to have feedback to know that there's somebody out there. If you're watching on replay, then equally you can comment, but obviously I won't be able to acknowledge you in words during my live. So the inspiration for today came from a lovely demonstrator called Gail Ellis, E-L-L-I-S. Hi Jeanette, hi Pauline, and she's based I presume in the USA. I will get her blog link and pop it up here. And she calls this the split negative technique, and it's something I haven't done for a while, and she did a lovely example of it which I caught on her YouTube yesterday, featuring the Forever Blossom set. She did some other ones as well, and it's a really effective way to make a batch of cards. You do really need a Stamparatus, that's our stamp positioning tool. If you've got an alternative stamp positioning tool, you'd be able to use that. Hi Carol with an E. And basically what you're doing is you're stamping on two pieces of card, in this case Night of Navy and Whisper White, and you're stamping the same image twice, once on the white and once on the navy. And then what you do is literally cut those in half and then piece them back together with their opposing parts. So you can see here I've got the left hand as navy and the right as white, and on this one the left as white and the right as navy. I added the sentiment afterwards because I wanted it to stand out on the white. You could have your sentiment going across the bottom as well if you wanted to. I just decided I wanted to add it afterwards, mainly because I hadn't decided what sentiment I was going to use. So thank you Pauline, it's lovely isn't it? So as I say, this was from Gail. I have done this technique quite a few years ago, but I just thought this was so striking. And what I thought this would be lovely for is if you've got a large Christmas tree stamp and you stamped it in the centre, one half red and one half green, for example, how stunning would that look? You could stamp it in black on both of those, or you could heat emboss it in white, for example, on both of those, and it'd be a quick way of getting really effective cards. So this really does look like a stepped up card. It does look classy, doesn't it? But I think a lot of that is the blue and white. I have popped it onto smoky slate card. So as I say, you do really need a Stamparatus to make the most of it. And because I'm going on to navy, I am going to stamp in Versamark and white heat emboss. If you had two light colours, or even if you had flowers and you had one pink and one so pale pink, pale blue, for example, you could stamp it in a single colour on both of those sheets. Okay, so let me give this a go. So it is a lot easier than it looks. The secret to this is to make sure your pieces of card that you start with are the same size. So the positioning of the flower will be the same in both cases, and this is where the Stamparatus is important. Now let me move these cards out of the way. So I've got a piece of Night of Navy and a piece of Whisper White, and I've cut these to the same size, and this is a standard layer size for me. So this is actually 9.5 centimeters by 13.85, but you could just have whatever size you wanted. I would say err on the larger side, because you can always cut it down. Okay, if you find that you've stamped it slightly unevenly and you need to move the pieces around, which is, I'll show you how to do that, then I would take it slightly bigger than you need. So you could even make that a full card front size if you wanted to. So 10.5 by 14.85 centimeters will be a full card front. You could put the design together and then cut it down to the size that you want. So that would be a recommendation. So let's give this a go. I'll stamp the white one first so you can see easily where it's going to go. So I'm using this stamp from Forever Blossoms, and it really does work with either a large stamp or some multiple stamps where you've got enough of it to split. Now this split could be at a diagonal. Okay, it doesn't have to be down the center. You could even do the split that way as well. And you could even have an offset split. So you could, for example, cut this at that point. So have a third blue and then the other 2/3 white. So there's a lot of experimentation that you can do with this to get lots of different effects. Gail, who did this recently, also did it in black and white. So if you love a black and white, then that would be a really good way of doing some black and white cards. So let me pop these a little bit up out of the way. So I brought my Stamparatus in, and I found, and I think this is something that Gail does as well, I just have, this is an old scrap piece of card that I've cut a right angle out of, so that I don't have to get this exactly, for example, on those lines. I can just put it into that corner, like so. Okay, just pop that in the corner, and I have already positioned this, but all I did was position it roughly in the centre. There was nothing more than that. So what I'm going to do is ink this up with a Night of Navy to start with. And I'm just going to put that underneath so I've got a nice flat surface to ink it up with. So this is Night of Navy that I'm going to put straight onto my Blossom stamp. And that's going to go straight onto my Whisper White card. This is just thin Whisper White, the one that we use for stamping most of the time. So nice amount of pressure and you get that really lovely stamp. Now I love this stamp anyway because it had... So don't do what I do, get ink on your fingers and then splash it over. But I just love the detail on that. So let's do that again without inking it up. I think it's ink on here that's caused the problem. Okay. I might cut another piece to size because now I've got bits on that everywhere. So I'll keep this one and cut round it later. Just goes to show, doesn't it? So let me just cut this one to size. I'm just being very wary of my stamp that is covered in Night of Navy ink. There we go. So just to make sure I've got this the same size, I'm just going to use that as my guideline, like so. So don't do as I do, girls. Just goes to show. Sorry about that. Lucky fingers already. There we are. Right, so I'm just going to check that is the same size as my Night of Navy, or, you know, fairly close. I won't worry if it's a little bit out, because I've got, I can do a little bit of movement on it, but yeah, that's close enough. So, wipe my fingers down. Hi Joe. Okay, so that's better. Right, so this is what we're doing. So, there we go. Putting my piece of Whisper White in. I'm going to clean off this magnet on my jeans. Like so. Okay, just going to re-ink this slightly. There we go. Okay, take 2. Here is Night of Navy ink on white on my Stamparatus. Okay, that's much better. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is take my Night of Navy card, place it in the same position. Going to wipe off my stamp and use Versamark ink. And this is because I want to use the white embossing powder on the blue. If you're using a lighter card, you could just stamp it again with your like with your same ink colour. Okay, so I'm going to use Versamark, and I am going to use my embossing buddy over here to start with. So I hope everybody's well today. Thank you so much for joining me. The weather's been a little bit hit and miss here, sort of rain showers, but it did get a little bit better this afternoon when I was out and about. Okay, so inking this up with Versamark ink and stamping it on my piece of Night of Navy, like so. And I'm actually going to ink this up twice, just so that I get some good coverage. So. Then I'm going to add my white embossing powder. Okay, so hopefully you can see that watermark image on there. It's coming through nicely now, like that. Move the Stamparatus out of the way. Let me just click back on my phone, as I have no idea why it's locked me out. Just so I can see everybody. Eventually. There we go. So here's my white embossing powder, and I've got my heat gun to hand, so I'm just going to sprinkle the embossing powder over, and then I'll heat up my heat gun. So just covering that over. Okay, and then just flicking the back to get rid of any excess. Put the lid on this so I don't knock it over on my current sort of activity. And there's a little bit here of loose powder, so you can either just use a paintbrush if you've got a dry paintbrush, or your finger, or a pokey tool, anything just to brush that out of the way. But I'm happy with that as it is. So let me just heat up my heat gun. I'm just going to do that away from the camera for the noise, and then I'll bring it in to heat it. So has anybody been crafting today? I hope some of you have. Just wait for that to heat up. There we go. And just going to start at one end, and then as you can see it melt. Just push the heat down along. Like so. So that's all done. Voila. Okay, so now I have this one here and this one here. So what I'm going to do is put these two together and cut across the center line. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is sandwich the two back again. So let me bring my trimmer in. Now, as I said, you could do this in any direction. So if you wanted to, you could actually do it straight across. I think I'd prefer this one going straight down, but you could do it acrossways, you could do it that way. As I say, any which way. And I do like to cut these together just in case my measuring has gone astray. So this is sort of 3 3/4. So it's going to do it. Is that 3 3/4? Yes, it is. It just didn't arrive. I'll do that just about there. Okay, so the measurement is not critical. You could do that directly on the center line, but it's not as critical as having the two pieces in the right place to start with. Oh, well done. Oh, jolly good. So here are the two. And we're just going to, as you can see, piece these back together again. Like so. And so. Now, if you haven't quite got these accurate, you may find, and I'm just going to exaggerate this slightly, that you have a difference between the two layers. So I'm going to show you what I do about that to sort of overcome that problem. So what I tend to do is use a piece of scrap card. Let me find my scissors with my lovely scissor charm on it. And you can do this as a complete piece, a large piece if you want to. I don't think you need to do that. Just cut up some pieces like so. And then what I like to do is put two pieces like that on the back and then affix the front. You'll see what I mean. So just going to add a little bit of glue, like so. And these are going to be hidden, so they don't have to be pretty. You can use any offcuts really. So I've got that there. Did you see what I did there? Do put them on the right side. It's not Friday the 13th, is it? Oh dear. Okay, so put them on the center panel. Add a little bit of glue. Okay, you really don't need much. This is just to hold this in place until you've got it lined up. Oh, Paulie's been making Christmas cards. Well done. Joe's been making more masks. Well done, Joe. So all I do then is put this on and then slide this until it's in position. Okay. And then push it down onto those backing pieces. So you can have a whole piece on the back, and I think that's what Gail did. Gail had a complete sheet that was the same size. But if you've got it the same size and you move it around, you'll end up with odd bits of edges potentially. So this way, if you've then got a difference in height, you can then put this back onto your trimmer and trim the whole thing down. You could also put it through a die cutting machine with a nice big die cut shape. Our stitched rectangles would look lovely. That would look really lovely as a stitched item. Let's do the same with this one. So let's do it right this time. So on the centre line, add some glue, like so. As I say, just for these panels, like that. Turn it over. Alright, and then put glue on here. I find it's just easier to do this than try and put it on your card and then discover you've got a little bit of a gap. In the meantime, you've already attached one piece to the card. Okay. There we go. So I'm just pressing that down. Hi Jane. Thanks for joining us. There we go. So now we've got the two. So this is called a split negative. I'm sure there's probably other names for it. So on this one here, I can see this one is very slightly out. Okay, so I can pop that onto my trimmer and cut it. As I said, what would be really effective would be to put that now through a die cut and have a nice big stitched section around it. I think that would be really stunning. So I'm just going to trim this piece here. So you can take the sort of the whole edge of it off. And this is where I recommend, you know, start with a bigger piece than you need, and then you can trim down as much as you want. And typically if one side is wrong, the other side will be too, if you started with them the right size to begin with. The same size. There we go. So it's as simple as that. So that's the effect. So what I'm going to do now is stamp my sentiment, and I've chosen to put the same sentiment on each side of the white, which is what I've done here. But you could, if you want to, obviously stamp and emboss onto the navy. I think I'm going to swap this out for a thank you, if it will fit. So I like these sentiments from Blossoms in Bloom. So I've got the thank you, got get well, sure do miss you. It's really appropriate at the moment, thinking of you. So I might just try the thank you from here. It'll certainly fit on that one. There we go. So I did have thinking of you for the previous one. And I'm going to add that in Night of Navy. Now you could, if you wanted to, put a sentiment right the way across the bottom at the same time that you do this. All I would say is you've got to be absolutely accurate to line up the sentiment then second time round. But that's not to say that it can't be done. Got something mucky on there. There we go. Let's just try that out. So I'm just going to try it on this spare piece here, and then I'm just going to put those onto my card. That's perfect. So obviously this took a little time because I was heat embossing, but if you were using, as I say, a big flower or something on a pink and then a pale blue, you could get away with it being just one stamping. Hi Bridie. Loved your cards from today that I saw. They look really stunning. Okay, so there's my 2 thank you sentiments. Wipe that up. So we do have a 1-day sale coming up next week. So next Tuesday, if I've got the day right now, is a 1-day sale of most of the items in our annual catalogue. So that's the big main catalogue. There are a few exceptions, so things like envelopes and Whisper White, very vanilla, the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, things like that. But the majority of the stamps, the ink pads, the blends are all on offer at 10% discount just for the day. So if there's anything on your wish list that you would like to grab from the annual catalogue, then you can either place an order on the day or order with me over the weekend or any time from now on, and I'll hold your order and place it for you on the day so that you'll get your discount. So just so that you know, if you want to clarify anything in particular with me, then you can just message me and ask me to check. I will be sending out an email with the list of exceptions, so you can double check that. But the dies and everything are also included. So there we go, that's one. And then this one here. And also you can embellish this further. You could add baker's twine, ribbon, anything you want to it. It was mainly the example of how to stamp and split it and then put it back together again. So split and negative technique. You'll be able to watch this again on YouTube. If you want more ideas, go and look for Gail Ellis. I will put a link in the comments here to her YouTube video that shows you how she did this, and I think she used Whisper White and Night of Navy as well. There we go. So I hope you like my cards for today. This is quite, I know we were heat embossing, but it is quite a quick way of getting a really clever looking card put together, because I think that looks really quite stunning. Who was it called it classy? Somebody did. Pauline said it was very classy, and I think it is too. As I said, if you had a big Christmas tree, you could split that red and green. Black and white is always really effective. You really need a big, a fairly biggish stamp. Oh good, Pauline, do have a go and let me know how you get on. But you do need a fairly big stamp, or you could have multiple stamps. And ideally one that you don't necessarily have to colour in, although you could be very clever and colour in this part and then white for these pieces. So I'm sure there's lots of variations on this. As I said, you could do one across the diagonal as well, but definitely use the Stamparatus. That will give you the best results, because obviously you're going to stamp in the same place. Yes, it would make a good sympathy card, Joe. You're quite right. Sadly, not sadly that you're right, but sadly it would make a good sympathy card. You could do this in black and white, that would be really effective, or black and vanilla as well, or black and grey would be quite stunning. So I hope you're able to give it a go. Thanks, Jeanette. I'm really glad that you were able to join me today. I will be back tomorrow, Friday. live at 5, and I've got something very exciting to show you. It is from the new catalogue coming up in January, and if you struggle with getting sentiments straight, or just getting the right sentiment, then I have the perfect solution for you, and I'll be showing that to you as a sneak peek tomorrow at 5. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll pop a photograph of these, the finished ones here, my thank you ones, on the Facebook page. Thanks so much for joining me. Please do take care, look after yourselves, look after each other. I hope you can keep crafting and keep safe. Thank you so much. Cheerio for now. Bye everyone.